Welcome back to our channel, Top 10 Countdown, where we delve into chilling and intriguing topics. In today's video, we will be exploring the most notorious serial killers based on the number of their victims. From their disturbing crimes to the lasting impact on society, these individuals have left a dark mark in history. So without further ado, let's begin our countdown of the top 10 serial killers by number of victims. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the Top 10 Countdown so you never miss out on more interesting and bone-chilling countdowns in future. Our countdown begins with Samuel Little, an American serial killer who operated from the 1970s to 2005, targeting vulnerable women. Little is known as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. Despite a troubled upbringing and previous run-ins with the law, Little managed to evade capture for a long time. He would gain the trust of his victims before violently killing them. What makes Little particularly disturbing is the large number of victims he claimed. He confessed to 60 murders, with authorities expecting the number to be as high as 93. Investigators worked hard to corroborate his claims, and many unsolved cases started to align with his confessions. Little's ability to escape justice for so long, and the sheer magnitude of his crimes, make him a chilling figure in the world of serial killers. Taking the 9th spot is young Shinhai, known as the Monster Killer. Shinhai was a notorious serial killer in China during the late 1990s and early 2000s. He targeted people in rural areas, posing as a hitchhiker before brutally attacking and killing them. His crimes were marked by extreme violence and mutilation, causing widespread fear among communities. Despite evading capture for some time, he was eventually apprehended and found guilty of numerous murders and rapes. Yang was finally apprehended in 2003 and executed in 2004, confessing to 67 murders and 23 rapes. At number 8, we have Compadamar Shankaria, an Indian serial killer active in the 1970s. Born in Jaipur, Rajasthan in 1952, he was arrested at the age of 26. This remorseless individual confessed to murdering at least 70 people between 1977 and 1978, driven by a sick pleasure in taking lives. Using a hammer, he struck his victims below the ears, earning him the chilling nickname, Compadamar. He was convicted of 70 murders, but it is suspected that his actual victim count may be even higher. Just before he was hung on the 16th of May 1979, his last words were, "I have murdered in vain. Nobody should become like me." Moving on to the 7th position, we have Pedro Rodriguez Filho, known as Pedrinho Matador, or Killer Petey. He was a notorious Brazilian serial killer whose life was marked by violence and tragedy. After killing his abusive father at a young age, Pedro embarked on a vengeful and bloody path, targeting criminals and those he believed had wronged his family. His thirst for revenge led him to commit over 70 murders using various methods of violence. Pedro showed a complete lack of remorse and engaged in acts of torture and mutilation, displaying a sadistic nature. Despite evading capture for a long time, he was eventually imprisoned and sentenced to more than 400 years, serving the maximum allowed in Brazil, 30 years. He was convicted of 71 murders, but claims to have killed over 100 individuals. Taking the 6th spot is Daniel Camargo Barbosa, a Colombian serial killer who inflicted unimaginable horror upon young girls in Colombia and Ecuador. Operating during the 1970s and 1980s, he lured his victims with false promises before subjecting them to brutal acts of violence. Barbosa's crimes, marked by a complete disregard for human life, came to an end when he was apprehended in 1986. Confessing to the rape and murder of over 72 girls, he faced justice, but tragically met his own violent end in prison. However, investigators suspect his actual victim count may be as high as 180. At number 5, we have Mikhail Popkov, known as the Werewolf. He is a notorious Russian serial killer. As a police officer, he targeted women over a span of 2 decades, brutally attacking and killing them. Popkov's crimes were marked by extreme violence and sadism. Despite evading capture for years, advances in DNA technology led to his arrest in 2012. He was convicted of 78 murders, but claims to have killed over 80 victims. The true number may never be known. Taking the 4th position on our list is Niels Hoge, a German nurse who worked in various hospitals between 2000 and 2005. He shocked the nation by intentionally causing the deaths of numerous patients under his care. His motive remains unclear, but investigations revealed a disturbing pattern of suspicious behavior. and an unusually high number of patient deaths during his shifts. He was found guilty of 85 murders, making him one of the most prolific healthcare serial killers in history. Authorities suspect that his actual victim count may exceed 300. Before we reveal our top 3 killers, let's acknowledge some infamous serial killers who didn't quite make it to the top, thankfully. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer who operated during the 1970s. Known for his good looks and charisma, Bundy would often feign injuries or use other tactics to lure young women into his traps before assaulting and murdering them. He confessed to 30 murders, but the actual number of his victims is believed to be much higher. Jack the Ripper, unknown. Jack the Ripper remains one of the most infamous unidentified serial killers in history. Operating in the Whitechapel district of London in 1888, Jack the Ripper targeted and brutally murdered female prostitutes. The killer's true identity has never been definitively discovered, adding to the mystery and fascination surrounding the case. Harold Shipman, aka Dr. Death. Harold Shipman was a British doctor who carried out a reign of terror over several years. As a trusted medical professional, Shipman used his position to administer lethal doses of drugs to his patients, causing their deaths. He was eventually convicted of killing 15 patients, but the total number of his victims is estimated to be over 250. Ed Gein. Ed Gein was an American killer who gained notoriety for his grisly crimes and the inspiration he provided for numerous horror movies. Gein, who lived in rural Wisconsin, exhumed corpses from graveyards and created furniture and clothing made from human body parts. He was convicted of killing 2 women, but remains a symbol of macabre fascination in true crime culture. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, was an American serial killer who operated in the 1980s and early 1990s. Dahmer preyed on young men, luring them to his apartment with promises of money or alcohol before drugging, sexually assaulting, and murdering them. He was apprehended in 1991 and confessed to 17 murders. Now let's get back to our list of the top 10 serial killers. Entering the top 3, we have Javed Iqbal, a Pakistani serial killer who committed horrifying crimes that shook the nation. He targeted children and young boys, subjecting them to unimaginable abuse and murder. His meticulous documentation of the crimes, including a letter confessing to over 100 murders, sent shockwaves throughout Pakistan. The case highlighted the urgent need for protecting the vulnerable and sparked conversations about justice and societal responsibility. Javed Iqbal's actions revealed the dark depths of human evil, leaving a lasting impact on the country and emphasizing the importance of preventing such heinous crimes. Coming in at number 2 is Pedro Lopez, infamously known as the Monster of the Andes. Lopez unleashed terror across South America. Active from the 1960s to the 1980s, Lopez preyed upon young girls in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. He deceived them with promises of money or gifts before subjecting them to horrifying acts and ultimately taking their lives. Lopez's crimes spanned several countries, leaving communities gripped with fear and anguish. He was apprehended in 1980 and convicted of 110 murders, though he claims to have killed over 300 victims. Despite confessing to over 300 murders, legal complexities resulted in a reduced sentence. And before we reveal the serial killer with the most confirmed victims, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting content like this. By subscribing, you will stay up to date with our latest videos and never miss a countdown again. And now, the top spot goes to Luis Garavito, known as the Beast. Garavito is a Colombian serial killer who committed horrifying crimes against children. He targeted young boys, promising them money and gifts before subjecting them to unspeakable acts of torture, abuse, and murder. He was found guilty of the brutal murder of 193 children, although the actual number of his victims is estimated to be between 193 and 300. Garavito's capture shed light on the shocking extent of his crimes, leading to questions about child protection and the justice system. Despite his heinous actions, his sentence was reduced in exchange for cooperation during his trial. These serial killers, each with their own chilling methods and shocking victim counts, remind us of the dark side of humanity. The impact of their crimes reverberates through history, serving as a grim reminder of the evil that can lurk within. We hope this countdown has shed light on the harrowing tales of these individuals. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more captivating content on our channel. Top 10 Countdown.